Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Talk Junkies, where tonight's going to be a very interesting night, as it is each and every single week here at Talk Junkies. If you're interested in last week's podcast, I did a short 20-minute segment with Danielle DiMartino Booth. She spent 9 years in the Federal Reserve of Dallas as an advisor to the CEO of that, or the president of that bank, and she just kind of gave her take on the landscape of the financial stuff that's going on here in America. And so if that's of interest to you, check it out. But this week's going to be a very interesting week as we have a very awesome guest coming on for the second time. Back in the house, a couple weeks ago, he came on the show and we talked about epigenetics, what he does to help people, and we can't say cure, but how he literally changes people's lives, thousands and thousands of lives now in his tenure as an epigenetist. Jay, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining.
Awesome. Super excited to be back.
Glad to have you, man. It's good to have you back. You talked about on the last podcast how you had surgery. How's that going for you, man?
Well, it's good. So I had rotator cuff and labrum surgery. They didn't know I had a torn labrum until they got in. So I had a full rotator cuff and labrum repair, distal acromial excision, bursectomy. And so I did a lot of things to make sure that got going in my world. This long answer. But really neat. So I come up with this idea. There's this peptide called BPC 157. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
It's called the Wolverine peptide. It makes you heal like you're 10 years old again. Like your body heals really fast.
Okay.
And then MK677, which is another peptide that makes your brain produce more growth hormone, 1.8 times. So I'm going to grow tissue back better, heal faster. And then after the surgery, I did stem cell-derived exosomes, where they ultrasound guided, after the surgery was done, the next day I had extra nerve block put in, and they went in and ultrasound guided it into the exact places where the surgery was cut and all this stuff is done. And that stem cell derived exosomes is the next generation of regenerative medicine. We call them biologics at our office, and we get amazing results with them. But we did that in my shoulder, and then I did them intravenously, went back to my office, did them intravenously. And at present, I'm healing 40% fastest they have ever seen on record. And I am doing active range of motion 4 weeks after surgery when you wouldn't even think about doing that till 6 weeks. And I'm not even wearing my sling or anything. I feel I can do some stuff.
That's crazy. So how long does this to recover from a surgery like this?
So it's a 6-month recovery.
Oh, shit.
Typically and I'm 1 month in, and I'm pretty sure within the next 2 weeks, I'll be able to start actually doing some resistance. But I don't know. I'm not the physical therapist.
Right. So when you say that it's the fastest that they've seen someone ever recover, more than anyone else, that's obviously just here, like kind of in the Midwest or the clients that they see. Have you done any research to see that? Is there anyone else in the States doing this type of surgery that you received?
So the surgery, sure. I mean, the surgery is just it is the surgery that they do for this. But I talked to the orthopedist, and I found this orthopedic surgeon that was like, oh, this stuff's cool. I'd love to have you do these things, and I would love to actually inject the stuff into your shoulder the day after surgery, and he agreed to all these things. But no one's actually put all these things together and done that as a protocol for surgery. So theoretically, if I really do heal that much faster than everyone else and that continues, obviously things can change. I could hurt myself. Something bad could happen. But if it continues, it's like a one-of-one process that could significantly improve the results and the healing time post rotator cuff and labral tear.
And if that's the case, man, you're going to have the MLB hitting you up, the NFL.
I guarantee you.
Yeah, they're going to be using that method because just to recover like that much faster, that's insane.
Well, one of the things that would be neat, and this could... so what do pitchers make in the MLB? What are they like? A really good pitcher. Hundreds of millions of dollars over a contract.
So
do they make $20 million a year, $40 million a year? Like they make a lot of money.
Yeah, I'd say on average probably 20.
So they could theoretically, let's say, an average pitcher lives, his life goes till 36 years old where he's able to pitch. I don't know how old people get, but if they were to come in on a yearly basis and get our biologics put into their pitching shoulder, because it actually increases telomere length, which determines your age. It actually will decrease their age, make them reverse age, protect all their shoulder from the inflammatory processes and regenerate their shoulder. They could theoretically increase just doing one shot per year, they could increase their career by 5-10 years.
So I'm curious if that were the case. I'm sure the MLB would definitely have to overview a process like that, because I don't know. Obviously, it's not a steroid. It's not a performance-enhancing drug. If everyone's able to do it, I mean, I guess technically, would you call it a performance-enhancing drug?
Well, it's not a drug, so it would be a regenerative medicine.
Okay, so that's not even close.
No, it's not illegal at all. Like, it'd be like doing stem cells.
Okay.
Like, oh, we want to do a stem cell injection. Well, this is the next generation of stem cells.
Okay.
This is what stem cells use to get you better.
That would be insane.
Right. And so I'm just some guy in the Midwest, right? Now, I am world-renowned for the Epigenetic Sealing Center for all the chronic disease we see. But it wouldn't be like MLB would call me and go, hey, come shoot up all of our pitchers every year. Although if they did, they would have a better product and have a lot more competition for the positions, because the older guys wouldn't go off as early. The younger guys would have to fight harder to get a position. It would change the landscape. Similar to, you could do it intravenously. This is a very gray area, but you could do it intravenously with a lot of players, say in the NFL, and have them reverse age. So the running backs, maybe instead of having this really short half-life now, where they go, I don't want to invest in Derrick Henry because, although he looks really good, the Titans are trying to trade him right now because they're like, well, he's probably fallen off the wagon. He's starting to get injuries. Jamal Charles, his career ended way too early. There's a lot of running backs who are great, but their bodies break down. Think about getting a couple of biologic infusions a couple times a year, and you just keep, reversing the aging process. You could have the Emmitt Smith running back again. Hey, this guy's Derrick Henry's playing now for 12 years at the top of his game, like Emmitt Smith. Oh wow, we're going to have a new rushing record, which will never happen again the way it stands.
Right.
No one's ever going to get that many yards.
No, definitely not.
So you can definitely do some really, really cool stuff.
So what you're saying specifically is that it reverses the age process specifically where you inject it.
So yes. But that's it. So what you would do is you would put these, they're really radical. It's a thin fluid. So once you put it in, let's say I put it in my vein, okay? It's going to go to my heart and my kidneys. It's amazing what you see with kidney function. People who are about to get dialysis will reverse that and bring their entire kidney back. Very cool. Heart, congestive heart failure, people with an ejection fraction of 15 jump up to 50. Like, it's so neat to watch that happen. But that's radical. It's just going to wherever your body needs it. It's they're paracrine signaling molecules. So they go in, they're tiny, like 40 nanometers. They'll go right past your blood-brain barrier. They bathe your brain and spinal cord. They'll go to anywhere your body is asking for help. And they'll sit on them and go, boom, here we go. I need all the stem cells to come out. All the stem cells of your body that have been kind of dormant, hanging out, not doing anything, pulls them all to that tissue. The stem cells start working, and then the exosomes work on the stem cells to make the stem cells young again. So now you have the stem cells getting younger while they're making more exosomes, and the exosomes, it's kind of like a rotational relationship. It's really amazing what these things can do.
Where did you find this, or is it a concoction, or?
No, I mean, these companies exist. It's an area where the FDA doesn't like this world. This is not a big world. So they're biologics. They are, they're regenerative compounds, kind of like stem cells, where pharmaceutical companies fought really hard to get rid of stem cells. Like, it was a hardcore battle. Stem cells are crap. You don't want to be part of that. Don't do it. If you're going to do stem cells, they'll take 50-year-old people and go, we're going to get it from your fat cells and spin them down. Well, they're 50-year-old stem cells. But if you get into these, so in the United States, what is legal is to have a baby born from a C-section. You take the placenta, and then you extract stem cells from there, but you can't replicate cellular tissue. So the stem cells you can't do anything with. But inside of the stem cells sit exosomes and extracellular vesicles, which are just all these little proteins, not cellular tissue. And you can replicate the heck out of an exosome.
So they're synthetic.
They're not synthetic, they're real, but they're replicated.
Okay.
So they get them out and they just replicate them. So when let's say we do something for somebody, you're looking at getting like 75 billion, 100 billion, 300 billion of these things. Whereas in a stem cell, maybe you get 50 or like 50 million. And then you get a certain amount of stem cells and you get a certain amount of exosomes coming out, but not every stem cell is going to produce the same amount. So it's less measurable. But when you're talking about getting stem cells from placenta, now you're getting young.
Right.
Versus, hey, as a doctor, it makes sense, makes more money. If you go, hey, I can just pull your fat cells out, spin it down, and put it back in you. I have no cost. It's just a matter of pulling it out, spinning it down, injecting it back in you. There's no cost, but I'm still going to charge you $5,000. You understand? So it's all profit.
Sure.
When you get these things from the placenta that's been donated and then, screened for any diseases and all this stuff, and then purified and then pulled the exosomes out. There's a good cost to that. And then obviously the process still costs, but there's a big overhead. So there's not as much money to be made. So those doctors don't like anything like that. They're like, oh, you don't need to do that. I'm just going to take the fat cells out.
And that doesn't make any sense at all. Like you said, they're very old stem cells. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure based on research that you've seen or that you've done, the older you get, the less likely that type of process would work for you. And I'm sure it does work where they, even if you are 50, they take the stem cell out. Yep. But it's just not going to work as well as like someone who donated a placenta like you talked about.
Yep, exactly. So it will work. And I'll hear people say like, hey, my doctor pulled my stem cells. I did the fat and it worked really well. I'm like, great. It will. I mean, it's going to be somewhat regenerative. It's going to be anti-inflammatory. There's good matrix and collagen matrix there typically within the solution. So of course, you can work. It's not like it's ineffective. It's just you could be more effective. They're just being kind of greedy.
So why doesn't the body just do that in general? Like whenever you have an ailment like that, to where it just kind of takes the stem cell itself and sends it where it needs to go?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm sure there is some movement, but pretty much your body's going to be very, it's going to be very judicious with how they use stem cells, because after your very small baby, the stem cells stop reproducing. They basically stop growing. They stop making more. It's actually really interesting when there's this guy, Dr. Gonzalez out of New York, who did all this cancer research. And he basically said, a cancer cell looks a lot like a stem cell. Like stem cells and cancer cells look very similar. He's like, after the stem cells stop getting produced when a baby turns on all of its pancreatic enzymes. When the pancreas starts producing enzymes, the stem cells stop production. So what if we took some animal-based pancreatic enzymes, put huge doses into somebody with cancer on an empty stomach so it would get into their bloodstream? What would happen to the cancer cells? And the cancer cells stopped reproducing.
So you're talking like from a pig or from like
from a pig?
Okay,
exactly. And I've seen it. I've seen it work. I mean, I watched a guy with prostate cancer. His PSA was like 22, it's 100 pills a day. I watched it go from 22 down to 15, basically within a 1 or 2 week period of time. Now you want it below 1,
right?
So it took it to a point. But really impressive stuff. And that goes from stem cells basically stop reproducing when you put that bunch of enzymes in there. Cancer cells can help too. But if you bring in exosomes, it basically turns all your stem cells back on. That's the neat part.
And I think you kind of mentioned that in the first podcast that you came on. You talked about, and we didn't really go in depth on it, it was reversing aging in general, just the whole process behind it. And it is a very popular topic on TikTok, where you do have these guys talking about how people who are born right now will live to be 1,000 years old. And I don't know how true that is or how likely that is. And even if we should even allow something like that. Now, within epigenetics, is that something you're interested in, reversing the aging process?
I don't want to grow old. I don't mind dying. So let's just be sure. If I could live like a 25-year-old all the way till I was 100 and then fall off a cliff, that's what I'd like.
Sure.
I don't want to live forever. I mean, who wants to live forever? I want to have my life cycle, but I want to feel great the entire time. And I think a lot of people are viewing aging as a disease at this point. Like, how do we stop the disease of aging? And there's lots of ways to do that. Like that MK677 I talked about, it's just an oral pill. Taking it as a growth hormone, secretagogue. So instead of putting growth hormone in this way and shutting off my growth hormone, I'm taking a pill that's making my brain produce more growth hormone. So it's a smarter way to do it. But those type of things make it so my body's able to regenerate better. BPC 157, it's a regenerative. It makes you heal like you're a kid again. So you're not going to age as fast because you're not going to break down tissue as fast. When you talk about the stem cell-derived exosomes or biologics, that's the best thing we have right now to make it so your telomeres get longer. Like exosomes or stem cells, they typically live in your body 3 to 9 months after you inject them. They're going to keep working. So let's say at worst you did it once a year. Theoretically, you would only age about 3 months per year. So
as opposed to all 12 months.
As opposed to all 12 months. So you got 25% aging over the course of a year.
That's huge.
And
I feel like your number one customer would be women for sure, and men too. But
right, oh yeah, everyone likes it. Actually, you know what? I've been on a lot more men than women. Yeah, and it might be because of the conditions they come in with.
Right.
But yeah, it's just you can stay young way. I just want you to know how good I felt since the surgery. I never had to take a pain pill. Not once. No pain pills. I had no pain in my shoulder. Never. Well, that's not true. I can injure my, I didn't have pain unless I actually injure myself. Like I got my kids a one wheel today. You know what a one wheel is? Mm-hmm. They're the most dangerous things on the planet.
But one of the coolest things. I would love to buy one.
Oh, they're stupid.
How fast are the ones you get going?
They go 20.
That's not bad.
No, it's not. That's the fastest they've got. But you feel like you understand that.
On the one wheels that you put 2 feet on and it's a wheel. Do they have ones that go like 50 miles an hour?
Well, that's probably I got the nicest one you can buy.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then it goes 50 miles an hour.
Okay.
But it's scary. One, you got to have some balance. Two, I tried to get on today because today's the first.
Why would you do that?
Well, I don't know. I thought it'd be fine, but then I started going backwards and I couldn't stop. And I'm like, why isn't it go? It should stop, and it didn't stop. And so finally, like I jumped off, but like I grabbed my son and then I used my arm and tried to like yank myself up, and that was painful for a little while, which stinks. I don't like hurt myself, but that's pain. That's not like an all-day thing where I have to take a pain pill.
Right.
I've not had to do that. But, man, it's fun to watch my kid, one of them, just get on there and kind of do his thing, and he's learning it pretty quick.
Oh, they learn fast.
It's supposed to be 14 and older for this one. He's 11. My other one's 9. We're going to get him on there, too. He's a little scared right now, but he's going to get on there.
Just take time.
We got the helmet, the elbow pads.
Dude, you got to watch YouTube videos of people on those one wheels. It's awesome.
It'll go 50 miles an hour?
There are some out there that go really fast. At least whenever I dabbled into one wheels and I just started watching YouTube videos on it, you have like professional dudes who are just cruising. I mean, there's a guy that comes into where I work at, and he drives it all around Overland Park on on the roads that we drive on.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like an accessory plug-in or something.
I'm not entirely sure. But so just to go back to the aging process just a little bit, have you done any research on just people who naturally age better? I know that they're able to tell in like other types of environments, like based on food, based on like whether they're eating more nuts, or I don't even know how to describe it, or better life environment. They don't live in the winter. It's summer all year long. You know what I'm saying? Just those types of people where I've seen people come into work and they're 80 years old and they're just rocking it out. So I didn't know if that, I mean, obviously that's genetics as well to a point.
Well, there's a genetic marker there. There's definitely genetics there. Some people have certain genes that make them more inflammatory. I'm dying over here.
Oh, you're good.
But anyway, all right. So some people have certain genes that predispose them to higher inflammatory processes. Are you familiar with glutathione?
I've heard of it.
So glutathione is your body's major antioxidant, protects you against aging and breakdown. There's things like superoxide dismutase that takes care of all your free radicals, that turns that into hydrogen peroxide, and then hydrogen peroxide gets turned into water by glutathione and catalase. These are different enzymes in your body. But there's a lot of people who have genetic variants with these that make them not work right. So you end up with higher free radical load. This is not whooping cough, and it's not COVID. This is me choking on my own saliva. I recommend it for everyone. This is a health tip from Dr. Goodbinder. Choke on your saliva. It makes you younger. We're talking about anti-aging. But here's the deal. So if you have these, there's a bunch of genetic variants. We do literally the most in-depth genetic testing on the planet. Well, it's 90 pages of line-by-line data. It takes me hours to sit there and break it all down, and I'll create a genetic picture for you. I'll go, hey, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And then we'll acquire whatever chemical or nutrient to bypass the gene to give you a pathway you've never had your entire life. We will do that. And it's pretty impressive what you can accomplish doing that.
So let's say you get a call from the White House saying that Biden needs to get on these biologics, right?
He's too late.
He's too late. So there is a point in time where it's too late.
No, just for him, it's too late. Yeah. He's way past the point of anything.
Right.
But we've had, except for one patient, and I'll get into that, we've had full recovery, full reversal of every Alzheimer's patient that's ever been in my office. Okay? There's a bunch of different factors that create damage to the hippocampus of the brain, which controls sleep-wake cycle and short-term memory. That is the part of your brain that's responsible for sleep-wake cycle and short-term memory. Hey, I don't sleep very well. My energy is really poor. I walk into rooms, I forget when I'm there. I can't remember things as well as I used to. I can't remember people's names. There's like a brain fog. You damage the hippocampus of your brain. Now, it can be, some people call it type 3 diabetes. Your blood sugars are too high. You're getting insulin resistant. So in that part of your brain as well as the rest of your body. So you can't get sugar in there. So you can't get ATP. You can't give it energy and it's dying off. It could be ochratoxin A, which can come from coffee. One of the most common sources of ochratoxin A is from coffee. That can damage that part of your brain. It can be a glutathione deficiency. It can be chronic Epstein-Barr, which is a virus. It can be herpes virus. Chronic replicating herpes virus can damage that part of your brain. Homocysteine, an independent risk factor for a stroke, that shrinks the hippocampus of your brain. It can be HPA Clostridia, which is a certain bacteria that can infect your intestine. That can shrink that part of your brain. Low thyroid can shrink that part of your brain. Low estradiol, low testosterone, low pregnenolone, all of those things can play a major factor. I'm probably forgetting a few, but if you lab test all of that, and then you go, okay, objectively, you have these things that's causing that damage to your brain, you eliminate them. It takes time, and it can take up to a year, we'll say. We get rid of all of it. Almost everyone is totally normal at that point. The couple of people that we haven't done, we use the biologics. And in those biologics, we do the majority intravenous and then some intranasal through the sphenoid plate, so it absorbs right into the brain. And of those, 100% within a day or three, when they all had bad headaches, and then all of a sudden they're like, I can remember everything. I can read the byline on the TV as it's going across. I can read everything again. I'm back. That's pretty neat. Now, the person that didn't respond was because she was responding, and then she was living with her son-in-law and her daughter, and the son-in-law and her did not get along, and basically said, "This is ruining our marriage. You need to leave." And so they kicked mom out to go live with her son, who immediately got her a pack of cigarettes and bought her some McDonald's, and that was the end of that.
Just like that.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't see her anymore. She was in a different state.
Sure.
We were done. And we can see people from other states, but she went away, and that was it. Like, we couldn't control it anymore.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily have to get into politics, but I am just curious on your thoughts on when you watch, and everyone sees it, man. Everyone sees Biden when he gets up, he talks, and a lot of the people on the left will say, well, they're taking short clips of him messing up, and that's what they portraying Biden as, and they're saying majority of the time he's talking fine. That's not the case, man. Like, and we're not no medical advice here or anything, but just what are your thoughts when you see him? What is going on with him, I guess?
I mean, they found themselves an empty vessel where they can control somebody. I mean, is it Obama controlling him? Is it, the New World Order, that type of stuff? Because, I mean, clearly there's things that don't make sense that are going on in our government. Like, it seems like intentionally inflating the dollar, getting really greedy with all the money laundering, with all the money going to Ukraine. It's not just going to Ukraine. There's some money laundering going there, and a lot of it. You can see the elections seem really odd, weird election like rigging going on in these last things. There is something controlling our government. I think China probably has a 25% hold in our government, 30%. It's not the whole thing, otherwise we'd be completely collapsed already. But we were in Afghanistan, right? Now Afghanistan, they're really rich in lithium, huge lithium mines. Well, what happened? Biden made a decision based on somebody telling him what to do, obviously.
Yeah.
We're going to leave out. We're going to pull everyone out of Afghanistan right now. We lost people, too. I think people died over there.
Yeah. I think it was 4 soldiers.
Yeah, something like that. It wasn't a huge amount of soldiers, but those are lives. Those matter.
Yeah.
And then we're going to leave hundreds of billions of dollars of equipment over there, brand new.
Yep.
We just bought these. We're going to leave them there. And we're just going to vacate, which I think we were there probably for the lithium in the first place. Which, what does lithium do? It make
batteries
for electric cars. So we immediately step out. The next day, China's there, and we're saying, we'll take care of everything. So China's in Afghanistan. They got a huge presence there. And now Biden's making decisions to force everyone to get electric cars. Everything's electric.
But for sure, no, I completely get that. That doesn't make any sense at all. And I think people who say, oh, it's, Biden is doing this wrong, Biden's doing that wrong. It's not Biden doing anything.
No, Biden does nothing.
Like you said, he's an empty vessel. But I guess my question is, what do you think, if you had to diagnose Biden, what would you diagnose him with?
I mean, he's clearly got some kind of dementia. He has some kind of white matter formation in his brain. He's not there. And I mean, just watching, I don't care what political party. I think that just the government has to have less control. I was talking to my son today, 11-year-old. And I said to him, I go, man, there was something that came up on the ballot, and I disagree. I think that people shouldn't have the ability to do this. I don't want to get into the politics. I don't care. It's something I disagree with. The bill came up to say people shouldn't be able to do that. The government should control that. And I said, you know what I did, son? I didn't vote because although I disagree with the ability of someone to be able to do this, it's not my place to tell them. And it's not my place to tell the government to tell them. Government should not have more power. But with Biden doing what he's doing, I mean, he's an inappropriate president. He does inappropriate things. And I felt bad for him. For one time, I felt bad for him. And normally I don't. I'm just like, I hate this guy. He's doing terrible things to the country. He's, with the Ukraine thing and the ruining of the stock market and the inflation of the dollar and trying to put us on the weak side of a war with Russia and China. A lot of bad things are happening. And I just remember watching this thing with Obama. He's out there at some big dinner. Who knows? It's $100,000 a head. It's all donors. And Obama's doing his thing. And Biden's trying to talk to Obama. He puts his hand on his shoulder. And he's like, hey, Obama. And he's confused. He doesn't know why he's there. And Obama shakes him off and keeps walking. And then this is Biden. He just...
Yeah, no, I remember that clip.
And I'm like, I feel bad for the guy. Like, he's a total idiot. He's corrupt. He's been corrupt for years and years and years, making lots of money off of taxpayers. Just embezzlement. When basically, hey, gender studies to Afghanistan for $40 million. Okay, you can keep 39. We'll take, or if you can keep one, I'll take 39 back. And we can give it to all of our friends. We'll all be really rich.
Yeah.
And that just keeps happening.
So you talk about white matter being in his brain, but you have like people, people who consider whether or not a president is fit mentally or physically able to do those types of things. And he testified to Congress, or he went to Congress, or went in front of the Senate and said specifically that he is still fit to run for president.
Ugh.
How is that the case, that someone medically with that type of degree and this type of magnitude can go on the world stage and say he is fit to go?
Well, I think that clearly there's people around him that want him in that spot.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't matter how unfit he is. They're going to want him there. And it's sad to see it. But you know what? The second term of Ronald Reagan, he clearly had Alzheimer's. And kind of Nancy was running the show, which was fine because she actually wanted something good for the country. I think the handlers of Biden don't want what's best. Have you ever read the book, The Rage of Obama?
No, I haven't.
It's a scary thing. I mean, I pushed it off because I was initially, when Obama started in presidency, I was a fan. I was like, oh, he's going to do great things. I found out not so much, and that was the end of it. After that first term, I said, okay, I'm done. But The Rage of Obama, and so I had a guy telling me about the book, and I was like, it's all just conservative stuff. It's all just political. It is not. So his father believed that the United States was a colonial government that was out to basically expand its power over the whole world, and the world in the United States owed the world a debt because of it. And Obama was putting that into place. Like, he goes through and he bows down to other leaders, tells everyone, we are a colonial government. We're bad people, and we owe you money. We owe everyone. And Biden's really, because he's the only one going to get blamed. He's the patsy. He goes, yeah, here's our fall guy. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. We can have him destroy the entire United States, and no one will get blamed except him. And who cares? He doesn't know any better. And you can tell that he's not fit, because I doubt he even runs a second election. There's no way he could.
So I guess I'm just confused, because we have the steps in whatever amendment it is. I think it's either the 19th or 20th or 21st Amendment, where you can say that a president is unfit, and then you can use that amendment to get rid of him, and then we'd have Kamala Harris. But neither here nor there.
Oh boy!
How can our Congress, the Senate, and the House just sit back and just continue to let this happen? Again, we're the strongest country we've been the strongest country for a very long time now, and there are a lot of smart people in this country. I truly believe that, but there are also a lot of people who aren't smart. And I'm not suggesting that I'm smart in any way. I definitely have a lot of room for improvement, but I can clearly see that this guy should not be in office. He should not be in office. He shouldn't be running. Literally just by listening to him talk. What was he at in Mississippi? Rolling Fork is where he was at.
Yeah.
Where the tornadoes hit. I don't know if you saw the clip, but he called it Rolling Stone.
Yep. Uh-huh. He's like, oh, my brain. Something in my brain.
But that's where we're at. And people legitimately, if he were to run again, which I highly doubt that he will. There's absolutely no way. But if he did, people would vote for him because they want the lesser of two evils, is what they'll say.
Yes.
What kind of concoction do you think that Biden's on right now?
God, man, I can't even imagine what he's on. I have no clue what they would actually put him on right now. I mean, I assume he's like on Adderall, something to keep him stimulated.
Yeah.
I'm trying
So
to focus him.
when you have like white matter which is causing Alzheimer's,
Yep.
like you described, Adderall can combat it a tad, tiny bit.
Maybe, maybe.
It has to do so. I mean,
they have drugs for it. There's just nothing's effective. You know, most of our medical system is a continuity model, so it makes it so you never take care of root cause of anything, and you Band-Aid it, and you seem a little bit better for a while until you get worse.
You don't think he's on any type of other things that like aren't allowed for anyone else? Like just, and again, you're right. They like him where he's at, so probably not.
Right.
What
just
type
enough. Just enough.
I mean, it's just like with Trump, you know, whenever he caught COVID the first time, then he was healed within 3 days. I'm pretty sure, right? He was on a different concoction.
Yes.
I'm sure he was taking ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, all that stuff.
Yeah. Which they've actually shown. You know, that's the craziest. This is, I mean, you understand that it is so corrupt, and they're saying, oh, he's crazy. He did all these things. Okay, just for the record, it's the NIH or CDC that says that's one of the lines of defense for COVID is ivermectin.
Right.
But when they made him look crazy initially. They made Joe Rogan look crazy.
Yep.
They made all these people look crazy for taking ivermectin, which is clearly antiviral, and it had a good effect. And all these doctors are coming out, and they're trying to take doctors' licenses for prescribing it. We prescribed it all the time. And you had to find specific pharmacies because no pharmacy would fill it. It was the weirdest thing. And you're like, it works, though. Not for everybody, but it works. And the reason that was done is because they would have never got emergency authorization for their vaccines if ivermectin was shown to be effective as a pill.
So Trump was kind of in a rock and a hard place. He had to make a decision. Donald Trump Jr. was on Tim Cast IRL a couple days ago, and that question was asked. You know, like, how do you feel about Operation Warp Speed? Because you know he kind of now you're seeing the results of what's happening with the vaccines. Not saying that the causes of all these deaths is the vaccine, but it makes you wonder, type of thing.
So a lot of excess deaths.
Yeah, and Donald Trump Jr. just said, he's like, dude, look, my dad was just in a rock and a hard place. Like, what was he supposed to do?
Well, he's not the one that developed the drug. He authorized everyone to try to, as fast as they could, to put this stuff together. And he never mandated it. That's the thing. So he said, you can get it, which is great. Everyone should, in a capitalist society, everyone should be allowed to do whatever the heck they want as long as it doesn't harm anyone else. So you go, hey, as a business, I'm going to develop this, and whoever wants to buy it from me, that's great.
As long as it's safe.
As long as it's safe.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, that sounds good. But when you have a corporatism instead of capitalism, you have corporatism where Pfizer, Moderna are in direct cahoots with the government, that the government makes more money if we make more money. And then you go, I'm going to develop this, but then my friends in the government are going to mandate it, and you're not going to be able to work, or you're not going to be able to have a job. You're not going to be able to go in public. You're going to need these cards to do anything.
And they tried. They literally, what was it? It was 2022, or the beginning of 2022, where they were going to try and mandate the government. Every business with over 100 employees had to mandate the vaccine.
It was unbelievable.
And I don't know. Someone had to have been working underneath the sheets or the covers or whatever you want to call it. And they're like, dude, the American people won't stand for this.
Right.
I think that had to have been the case because it just kind of went to the wayside. But the mRNA technology, if I'm not mistaken, has been being worked on for
20, 30 years. Really, a long time.
Okay, so whenever you see that type of thing happen, I know it's not necessarily for COVID, but did they rush the vaccine in that essence, since there was 20 years type of research?
So I mean, the whole thing was put together. It was put together long before COVID ever came out. So they basically created a patent in 2016 or 2015. I think it's 2016, where they actually, Moderna, put together basically the spike protein mRNA in 2016, which is a mixture between an oncogene, which is a cancer-causing gene that makes your DNA replicate in a bad way, with a GP120, or is it GP130? I think it's GP120, which is a piece of the HIV virus, which makes it so your cytotoxic T cells can't see irregular cells. And they put it together. It's never existed anywhere in the world. This is a patented
mRNA.
So this is the deal. It's a DNA it's a protein that they put together, and that direct protein with those two SNPs went directly into the vaccine. So it doesn't exist anywhere else. It's a COVID. It was for the COVID vaccine. And they're just proteins they set together and they go here.
So can you actually look this information up and find that they put those proteins in the mRNA?
Yep. So it only took me about 6 hours one day. I spent a lot of time trying to just basically knock down what happened was we were seeing things in our practice where people who had the vaccine within about 1 to 2 months were getting these explosive cancers. And you're like, what the heck's going on? And every single one of them, the doctor's like, we can't stop it. There's no way to control this one. The chemo's ineffective. And people are dying within like a month of getting it. Like, it was so fast. My dad got one. We were able to stop that situation. I don't go into all that, but we did some special things. They gave him no chance, throat cancer, and we had him in 3 months, 100% remission. Just utilizing physiology, understanding how that works. But the people were getting this. We had a nurse practitioner whose mom died, who had cancer and was completely clean like 2 years before, got the vaccine, and then got all over her body completely covered in the same cancer, came back, and then like wildfire, and then she died within like a month, very shortly. One of my liaisons, same thing. Mother got it within a month, full-blown cancer all over her body, and then
there was a lot of death after the vaccine got administered.
Yeah,
within that first year or two.
So I spent some time looking it up, and I found the patent. I found the patent from Moderna and NIH that split that patent 50-50, by the way. I found the patent, and then you could see the SNPs that they got, which is, I don't remember the exact, I wish I had my paperwork in front of me. I think it's like HC86, something like that, which is a genetic variant where your body can't rewrite DNA appropriately. So when you miswrite it, it becomes an irregular cell when you're breaking it apart. And then you have another SNP, the GP120 or GP130 from the HIV virus, that makes it so you can't see irregular cells. So you're getting a double whammy. One, you're rewriting inappropriately. Two, you can't see it.
So they're pulling proteins out of those two, out of HIV. So it's not specifically HIV.
It's not HIV.
Okay, they're pulling something out of it,
right,
to try and put it into the mRNA. And how is that beneficial if there's two double whammies?
Well, it's just part. So what they're doing is they're taking those proteins that are part of COVID, and they're putting it, the mRNA technology, into the mRNA. It's not the mRNA. So it's in the mRNA technology, so it gets you to start producing those spikes over and over. So now you're putting those proteins out over and over to get your body to become sensitized and attack it. But for about 0.8% of the population, they already have one side. They already have a heterozygous SNP of that inability to rewrite DNA appropriately. So when you put in the vaccine, again, it's 99.2% of people will not get that explosive cancer. But the 0.8% will.
0.8% of 7 billion is a lot.
Right, correct. So see, that's the thing is you go, well, it's still 99.2%. You go, wait a second. You're saying that for 0.8% of people who get this, they're going to have irregular cells forming all over their body, and then it creates an immune system issue. When you see COVID hit people, it did something really weird with white blood cells. You would see white blood cells actually go down with COVID. When normally you get an infection, you'd see white blood cells go up. So it's very weird, because we were seeing people right at the forefront of it all the time. For that 0.8%, though, they're going to create a wildfire, inappropriate cellular formation, and they won't be able to see it. And so their body literally has no check to be able to protect them from the growth of those cells.
Yeah.
That's where the issue comes in.
Yeah, and I don't know, with the older vaccines, what the percentage was of people who had adverse reactions. I know that there's a report that the CDC requires, or the FDA or whatever it is, for adverse reactions, and that was a whole gray area whenever COVID came up, was that, that really wasn't something that people had access to, or were they really taking in all of those things into account? But again, 0.8% or whatever it is you said, that's alarming.
It's a crazy number.
Yeah.
That's a crazy number. And so, yeah, I saw my dad get it, and it was a PDL1 where the body couldn't see it. And so they're like, yeah, we don't really have anything. We can try to do immunotherapy, but that's got a less than a 30% chance. Or it'll never make it go away. We'll have you do this forever until you have liver toxicity or some other organ failure, and then we'll have to stop that too.
So I know that they're supporting the lab leak theory now. I know that have you seen that recently in the news where they're kind of saying it probably most likely was a lab leak in China?
lab leak, like
theory,
but not intentional. They didn't.
Right. I have no idea. I'll be honest. I should probably have done my research and
Right.
before saying some stuff like that. But I guess what I'm saying is if you were seeing a lot of patients coming in with COVID during that time, and you said you've seen something you've never seen before, like with white blood cells and those types of things, does that almost suggest that it's almost like a man-made virus, or how does that make sense? That type of question, how like the difference that you saw on it?
Well, I mean, I can say that across the board, when you get an acute infection, just comes on shortly, whatever, you'll see white blood cells go up because your body wants to attack it. But for some reason in this one, the white blood cells go down. So that was very interesting to me. You don't ever see that. I can't say that's because it's man-made, but I could say that I've never seen it before, and it's really interesting seeing. So I used to work for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services in the Office of Public Health and Science. I was a health promotion guy. I worked on getting smoking out of bars and things like that. But I remember talking to one of the people in this office, which had an elected official in it, or an appointed official in it. And I remember driving with him. I don't know what we were doing. It was an HIV symposium. We were doing an HIV thing. And he goes, I tell you what, I hear about in China. He told me this 20 years ago. In China, they're talking about airborne HIV. Man, if we get that, everyone's dead. Airborne HIV. Very interesting that SNP comes from HIV, and it was in COVID. So it does decrease your ability to handle other infections. And so I talk to my patients a lot about these things, and I just said basically like COVID was the Trojan horse. So when you get COVID and you have long COVID, a lot of the time what it does is it activates latent viruses and latent infections in your body that you don't even know about because your immune system can't hold it back anymore. It gets in and goes, here, I'm going to unlock all the cells. You guys come on out. Let's go have fun.
I just don't feel like that's a natural type of virus.
It doesn't seem natural. No,
right.
It doesn't. I mean, I just don't know what to say. I can't say
for sure. No, I completely get that. Yeah, that's not, I don't think an answer that anyone has except the people who are potentially may have made it, or you know what I'm saying. I don't know. It's almost
there's
impossible.
Somebody who knows.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody who knows.
But I mean, I know animals do pass on disease, and it goes over to humans. I know that the bird flu is making its rounds again. I know quite a bit of seals. I can't remember what country just died off suddenly, and they're saying that it's not looking good. But there's also this fungus going around that's been going on for about 10 years, and now it's progressively getting worse and hitting 25 different states. But
did you see the World Economic Forum that the most recent emergency protocols they put in place for a new virus? I think it's an enterovirus that will specifically target children more often and kill off kids.
That's not what nature does.
Yeah,
nature doesn't do that.
No, but last time they did the COVID test, and then it came out, it didn't affect enough kids. And so this one's the enterovirus. This one's going to more target children.
See, at that point, if that were to be the case and viruses just were natural at that point, I think that would just be Mother Nature saying, hey, your reign is done here because you're destroying the earth, blah, blah, blah. Right. That would be the only other explanation to me. Because a virus that just strictly goes specifically more so for children.
More so, yeah.
Yeah, not that you would be excluded or I would be excluded from that. But
but it will kill more children than adults, and that stuff's scary. Not that, and I don't believe anything bad ever happens. I'm still like, listen, in the end, I'm going to be okay. I know everything's going to work out for me. I have no doubt. But there are people out there, and this is where it gets into the ignorance is bliss thing, right? So in some level of, I have knowledge of things. So I've read things, I've read research, I understand kind of how things work. I was talking to a buddy of mine who's also a successful person. And I said, here's the deal. You get to a point where you're successful and you go, yeah, I'm always going to be okay. Nothing bad's ever going to happen to me. I'm kind of past that line. Everything's going to be fine. There's an issue with that is that you go, that's fine, but there's almost an emptiness because you're like, well, I'm not worried about dying. I'm not worried about this. I'm not scared of anything. I can enjoy my life and do this stuff, but it seems kind of meaningless knowing that nothing bad will ever happen and I don't have to worry about it. Well, so there's an emptiness there. There's some kind of anxiety with it because you're like, what do I do? I have nothing to do. These are first world problems. I just have to figure out something to make myself stressed out about. But then the ignorance is bliss folks who are living within the system and they're worried about all these things. All these things matter, and there's entertainment to that. We got to make sure that these people have rights and those have rights. I can't believe people are so LGBTQ phobic. no one cares about, unless you're LGBTQ, you don't care about that community. You go, okay, have fun.
Yeah.
No one's against you.
Right.
Now they're trying to turn us against each other.
Right.
I mean, for the most part, let's say 1% less than 1%. Let's say 0.1% of people are like Klansmen or actual neo-Nazi racist type people. 99.9% of people don't care what color you are and whatnot, but they're blowing it up in the government to kind of turn people against each other, like Black Lives Matters and all this stuff. Like, of course Black Lives matter. So do white lives, so do brown lives, so do red lives. No one cares. You have this thing where everyone's turning each other against each other. And if you're in the ignorance is bliss club, you'll get excited about these things. Yes, we got to protect these.
Gives you purpose.
Hey, you know what I just heard this is actually very funny. What do they call a transgendered man, a woman who became a man, what do they call a transgendered man who's a vegetarian?
What?
Herbivore. I heard that.
My goodness.
I thought it was great. But no one cares. Like, I could care less. I have a transgendered patient. Great. Like, she is just a person. Like, I have a transgendered patient who was a girl who became a boy. Great. He's a nice person. Like, fine. I'd love to help him. I don't care. Like, no one really cares. But they're making it into a thing where they're going, listen, the transgenders are going after your children, and now we hate each other. And you can just watch it, and you go, nothing bad's going to happen. But if you're in it, you're like...
See, it almost makes you, and again, you're right. It's perpetual, right? If the race baiting doesn't stick, you had George Floyd, and I'm not saying that that's what that was, but they magnified that on a level we've never seen before, and the divide that created. And then they start noticing that, we're starting and slowly getting past that. So now they have to find something else. They have to find another boogeyman. They have to find a way to keep us divided. And for however long that will work, I'm not entirely sure, because I'm with you, man. I'm in that camp where I'm like, I love everyone. I just want everyone to get along.
Yep.
Let me be me, as long... It's so hard to stay positive, and you explain it the best way. It's like our body is always looking for something to be stressed out about.
Yep.
But for me, it's a much bigger distraction. And I could be wrong, and maybe we feel special, and we think that something bad or something catastrophe or Jesus is coming back within our lifetime is going to happen. But if that's not the case, and this is the route we continue to go on for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and we're all still here, nothing cataclysmic happens, then we are going at this the completely wrong way. And I cannot live a life like that, man. Even though if that's what our bodies are meant to do, is find a way to not be complacent because we have first world problems. We got to get past the division, man.
Yep. I mean, that's the thing. It's just they're lighting people up to the point of, like, have you seen, like, in the elementary schools, they had white students bow down to black students and ask for apology? Like, what the heck did you do? No, you guys were all friends, and now they just divided you and made you feel like you're different. It's more, to me, it's more reasonable to be trans-colored than transgendered, because that's just melanin. It's just a melanin difference. Like, I've decided I'm black today.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have the same genitalia. I'm a black man. That makes more sense to me than going, I'm actually a woman.
Right.
But it's just, they're creating this thing where, again, don't care about if you're transgender, more power to you, have a good day. Don't care if you're black or Indian or Chinese or Japanese. Everything is cool. It's like, hey, you got your culture, cool. You're Native American. You ever had fry bread? That's pretty cool. I wouldn't eat it anymore. It's inflammatory, but great tasting stuff. It's like, who cares? But they make it into this thing. We're like, well, what's going on with San Francisco? You hear about the $5 million of reparations. It's never going to pass, but it's pandering.
Right.
And the more they do
get the vote.
Yeah. It'll never pass, but get the vote. Look, he really loves. He's so inclusive. It's the party of the inclusive party. Did you see that thing? I loved I don't know who said it, but they're like, you look at, that guy who had a beard, he had bright lipstick, he was bald on top, the person stole the suitcase with all the dresses and whatnot at the airport.
Oh, yeah,
a nuclear secretary or something.
Yeah, they were involved with the government, yeah.
It had nothing to do with his qualifications. It had nothing to do with how he did in school. It had nothing to do with his mental capabilities, his ability to communicate, nothing. It had to do with inclusion. He's different. Look, this guy's a really different person. We're going to put him in the government. And that upsets people. One, it gets people to cheer, and then it upsets people because they're not actually qualified, just looking different. So it irritates people that are like, it's just for inclusion for no other purpose. And so that starts a fight too. It's not like, hey, this person was ultra qualified, super normal, not going to just randomly steal some woman's bag so he can wear their dresses at the airport. I mean, this is crazy. It's crazy.
So for me, Jay, like look at it like this way, man. And we've had over 90 guests on the show over a 5-year period, and we have some OGs on here, man. And we have Dan, who's a hardcore constitutionalist, man. He's all about the Constitution. And again, Pat with Pat with the Missouri Freedom Initiative, and Pat is going viral on TikTok. Granted, we've had a few videos go viral as well, but it's the grassroots movement, man. Like I'm 33 years old. I've never once before I met Pat watch a House of Representatives meeting or a House meeting or a congregation in Missouri at all, ever. Yeah. But then eventually it started getting to me, and I'm like, dude, I'm just going to go to Missouri.gov. Then you get on there and you can watch all these Senate hearings or all these SB hearings, all the bill sponsors, and you just watch it. And I'm like, dude, I'm 33. I've never watched this before. But this is what's going on in my state, and these are what these people are deciding for me. And I think that if more people get in tune with that, we're going to have a less issue with the things that we're talking about beforehand.
Right.
With inclusion, with division, all those types of things. People just need to be more involved in their communities.
Yeah.
In my opinion, man. Because
no one knows what's going on.
Yeah, no one.
They're just
absolutely
sit back and it's one of the other things I have a bunch of elected officials who are patients. And I talked to this one guy and I thought it was so interesting. He said, at any point in time, 3% of your elected officials, 3%, and they rotate. They don't stay there. 3% of your elected officials really want to do something good. They literally go, I'm going to help people today. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change the government. And in the end, those 3 people get laughed at by the other 97%. And of those 97%, they're split 50-50 for people who want to show off how high they can get in government, or the other 50%, how much money I can make in government.
Yep.
And those people are the lifers. And he is like, I was there for a while, and I'm one of those 3%. I couldn't do it anymore. Like, they're such bad people. Like, they're just so bad. They don't care about you at all. And it's a sad situation. I don't know how to fix that.
I mean, yeah, that's been a big topic of debate on this podcast in 5 years. That's something we continuously always talk about. And there's got to be a way to fix it, Term limits, Trump talked about it in his new campaign speech he released a couple weeks ago. I'm not endorsing Trump in any shape or form. You never know. We are only given 2 options or 3, I guess, or you can write in whoever you want, or don't vote, like you said. But
I only just on that one issue.
Sure,
vote.
But someone's going to get elected president.
Yes.
And it's most likely they're going to be Trump or whoever is the nominee for the Democratic Party. And he is saying basically he's going to install term limits. He's going to drain the swamp for real this time is what it seems like to me. And if that's truly the case and he does those things, that's JFK 2.0 at that point.
Well, I was told that, so I was trained to speak, and this doesn't sound like a good thing, but it is. I was trained to speak, highest level speaking coach in the world. I spent a week doing the same training that actually Donald Trump, Bill Clinton did, the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort did, Tony Robbins did. We all did the same speaking training. And that guy said, when Trump was initially running, he's like, Hillary was supposed to be president for the last 20 years. They already know Hillary's going to be president. He's like, they would never let Trump be president. If they did, they would just kill him because he's not part of the plan. He is not one of them. And I don't think they realized how big of a swell he was going to get as far as votes, and they couldn't keep up with it. They couldn't do the machines big enough. They couldn't figure out a way to get her enough votes to win because they just thought there was no chance. I think the next time if Trump were to somehow win, which I'm sure they're not going to let him, it's just not going to happen. I personally would love Trump to come in because he's not one of them. He may be all for himself. He may want to make himself millions of dollars and get more clout for himself, but at least he's not hooked up with all of the interest groups and New World Order stuff and all that to specifically damage us. I'm sure in his mind, he's like, well, shoot, I can do this and actually help people too. Yeah, I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to make $1 billion over here. That's fine. But I'm going to help all of these people in all these different ways. And no other politician would ever do that.
Right.
Because they really don't want to help you.
And that's my only hope is if he does come back and he is elected somehow and these things he's talking about, he really truly wants to do and he does those things. I'm all for it, man, because there were some questionable things in his first election that I was concerned about. Operation Warp Speed, which we kind of described, but he was almost forced at hand to do that, you know?
Had to.
I mean, I think any president in that position most likely would have done the same thing again, but like you said, and you made a great point, he didn't mandate it. And then there was one other thing that he had did that was very sketchy. There had been a mass shooting of some type. I think it was Parkland in Florida, and they were all at a table talking, you know, politicians and Trump, and he was asked, like, what are you going to do about it? And Trump's like, well, I'm going to take guns first, ask questions later. Is that
what he said?
He said it.
Oh, wow.
It's on camera. He said it. He said basically talking about red flag laws, specifically in that situation. He wasn't saying in general, in a consensus of taking everyone's guns. He was just saying in that instance with red flag laws. Are you aware of red flag laws?
I'm not. Tell me about it.
So basically, let's say you're my next door neighbor and you're outside, you and I have an altercation. I think you're a little crazy. I'm going to go to a judge in our town, and there are red flag states. Missouri's not one of them. I don't know if Kansas is or not. You go to the judge and you say, hey, man, like Jay's really crazy. We had all this stuff happen. I've been watching him recently. He just doesn't seem right. And the judge, however they're feeling at the time, like, Paul, you know what? The stuff you provided me today, I think you're right. We're going to put the red flag on Jay. We're going to go to his house. We're going to confiscate his guns until we can prove he's fit to have those guns. So then people will come to your house, government. They'll take your guns away just because your neighbor said you're not fit to have them.
That's scary. Like when you were going through, I'm like, ooh, that's ugly.
Yeah.
Because anybody could be paid to do that.
Exactly.
And then the government, you can't trust anybody in the government. You cannot trust anyone.
Right.
So that's some scary stuff. I even think, you know, like a Ron DeSantis, which sounds really cool. I'm worried about him too.
Yeah, he seems more establishment for sure recently.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
And so you go, gosh, they're all kind of bought off.
Right.
You just, I mean, it'd be great to have a libertarian, but most of them are dunces. I mean, they're just.
I don't think it's ever happened, has it? A libertarian president?
No, but you know, I looked this up. You know the most libertarian country on the entire earth?
What?
You know what it is?
No.
America. We're the most libertarian of any country in the world. And I'm like, geez, and it just seems like they're trying to take it away. Because I was looking at when the COVID thing happened, I'm like, all right, I need to go to live in the most libertarian country in the world where I can do whatever I want.
Right.
Oh, we're here.
Yeah, I guess at that point you find just the freest state. There's a metric, I'm not entirely sure how it's done, but Missouri is like the 11th freest state in all 50 states. And Pat, like the guy I talked to you about, his goal is to just keep getting that closer to closer. I don't know what the number one freest state to live in, but that would probably be the state we want to live in.
Right, 100%. And again, I'll just let anybody do whatever they want. Just stay the heck away from me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm going to have guns to make sure you do stay away from me, actually.
100%. So we're getting close to the end of the hour, man. Is there anything else on your mind going on that you've been thinking about? Any cool thing coming up with work?
Yeah, well, let me throw this out there. I think this is going to be really helpful.
Yeah.
Well, work-wise, listen, if you have any chronic disease, rheumatoid arthritis, my best conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, psoriatic arthritis, or enteropathic arthropathy, if you have any of those HLA-B27 diseases, you literally have no reason to have that anymore. You can come off all medication. We just need to figure out how to fix it, why you're dealing with it, and literally it's 100%. Like I have no doubt in my mind, give it 99.9 because I can't 100% control anything. 99.9% chance you're totally normal within a few months. And I know it sounds hard to believe, but literally everyone gets better. And if you are still suffering with those, you have no reason not to contact us, drgoodbinder.com. Now, I just want to do that real quick plug. The other thing, investment-wise, just for people out there who are worried about the stock market, if you have a 401k or an IRA, I say currently get the heck out of the stock market, do a self-directed IRA, so it's still pre-tax, you don't have to worry about paying tax on it, and go buy yourself some assets. With the money inflating as it is, I really want to, for me personally, my goal is to go buy a cattle ranch. I'm going to sell all of my entire 401k and IRA. You have to find a bank that'll be a conservator, but you don't want to keep the money in the bank because the banks seem to be going defunct. You have the money go through, you buy your apartment complex, your cattle ranch, you buy whatever assets.
Land.
Yeah. Buy land. And any money that comes from that has to go back into the bank because it's a conservatorship. They're taking over your IRA. It's still pre-taxed. But as long as you keep more money out and keep purchasing and keeping it going, as long as you have under $250,000, the FDIC, you're insured for $250,000. Now, with that being said, the FDIC is kind of like Social Security. They literally have a total of 0.03%. If everyone pulled their money right now, you would have 0.03% of the population actually insured. And that's your elected officials' friends that are going to get paid for.
Oh, yeah.
So keep it in your assets, get it out of the stock market. Bada bing, bada boom, you're protected. That's what I'd have to say.
No, that's huge, man.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that, but it makes sense.
Yeah. You have to find a bank that's willing to do it, because
Sure.
not every bank will be conservative.
For sure. And true, yeah, because if you that's a loop you're saying that you can go through as opposed without taking a penalty on your 401k is what
Exactly.
you're saying. Okay.
Exactly. It's still in the 401k. It's still in your Roth IRA. It's still in your IRA.
It's just not in the market.
It's not in the market.
Yeah, that's
now
smart.
You're self-directing.
That's
and it's
smart.
like $200 a year or something for the bank to do that for you.
Sure. That seems like a no-brainer to me.
Me too.
Assets are everything. And honestly, in my opinion, granted, I'm very brief in the stock market. I've been doing it for about 3 years now. And I'm slowly learning as I go. But assets truly seem the way to go. Whenever you see people with big money, they have land, they have property, they have an asset, commodities, farming, whatever it is. So I'm right there with you, man.
Hunting land. Oh my gosh, get yourself hunting land. People can buy for hunting tags, and you get paid for that.
Yep.
And then theoretically, maybe this isn't legal. I don't know if this is legal or not, but you could even go out hunting and get your own meat, because who knows what's going on with our food sources.
So there's a guy, I forget which state it's in. He was doing local farm fresh meat. An Amish guy, I believe. I could be wrong. I'd have to look up the video exactly, and I'll send it to you. But to watch, but he had quite a big business going. He had a nice little grocery store. Basically, what it was out in the country, it's farm fresh meat.
Right.
No additives, grass fed, the whole 9 yards. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. He eventually got so big, the state got involved. The feds got involved. They shut him down. They didn't allow it. So
it's gross what goes. I don't know how they justify it, but they'll go into like a family and like arrest the father of a family. He was just trying to make a living doing something like God intended.
Yeah.
And you go, how the heck are they allowing that?
You almost have to do it for yourself and not for everyone else at that point if you want to live a life scared free.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But in your case, and you've seen it firsthand, man, your practice has been...
We've been attacked.
Yeah, 100% you've been attacked.
Well, so the reason I'm so good at psoriatic arthritis, rheumatoid, and teropathic arthropathy, ankylosing spondylitis, is because I was disabled with psoriatic arthritis. So those have a lot in common. It's my passion. It's such a simple process for us at this point. The fact that anybody has that in the entire world who doesn't come to me, it doesn't make any sense. Why? Why are you suffering when you don't have to? But I went to the legislator and I spoke, because I read research. I make research easy to understand for people. So I'll go through research and I explain the numbers. And I was hired by a group called Kansans for Health Freedom to go speak at the legislature. Yeah. They said, please come speak for us. I said, fine. And so I went against Kansas and I said, this doesn't make sense. This is fear-mongering. They don't need to do X, Y, Z, because that's not what the research shows. The research shows there's actually no benefit to doing these things for anyone who doesn't want to do them. And they came after me and said they're going to make an example out of me. And people in the legislature told me, they specifically mentioned you, and they were going to set an example of me. So I started getting a subpoena week after week after week, and my attorney said, get out of Kansas. They're going to keep coming. And so I moved to Missouri, and a few years later, they said, okay, you owe us $5,000, and we're going to publicly censure you because you said you could help with COVID and all this stuff. Like, it was very interesting.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm not going to. And I don't have a license in Kansas anymore. I moved it to Missouri. You can't do anything. And like a month later, they came back and said, we've decided not to charge you, but we're going to give you a sternly written letter of our disapproval.
And that's the state, though. Imagine the heat from the feds.
Oh, yeah. If I was big,
yeah. And
I'm big within the world of people with chronic disease, but I'm not on the big stage.
Yeah. Well, like you said, we can find you at jgoodbinder.com. You got TikTok.
No. Dr. Goodbinder.
Dr. Goodbinder.
jgoodbinder.com is my speaker's website where people hire me to speak.
Okay.
But drgoodbinder.com is my actual medical website where you can come and get help with chronic disease. You don't have to live in Kansas City. You can live anywhere. We've had patients from 19 different countries come in. And some of them don't actually come here. We just run the labs where they're at.
Rock on, man. Yeah. And I'll put your handle for TikTok, all that good stuff. Jay, thanks for coming, brother. It's always an honor to have you, man.
Yeah, this one. Left hand. This is the one we wipe with. We like to do the dirty handshake.
Yeah.
I had shoulder surgery. I can't walk out.
To all our junkies out there, stay fly and ring the bell.